Hi, everyone. Good evening. Can you all hear me? I just want to do a check. Okay, great. I'm Namulinda Lester. I am CHFT's current president, and I'm here with Nicole Waldron, CHF Canada's vice president. We're thrilled that you joined us tonight to talk about what this federal election means for co-op housing.
Thank you. And good evening, everyone. How's everybody doing? Wonderful. Now, it's important tonight that we hear about this upcoming election on April 28th and what it could mean to our sector. But before we get into all of that, we need to do something very important because we have to acknowledge the land on which we sit here at Oakham House. We are on the territory of the Huron-Wendat and the Petun First Nations, the Seneca, and most recently, the Mississaugas of the Credit River. The territory was the subject of the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Bell Covenant, an agreement between the Iroquois Confederacy and the Confederacy of the Ojibwe and allied nations to peaceably share and care for the resources around the Great Lakes. This land has been the site of human activity for 15,000 years, and today is still the home of many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island. We are grateful to have the opportunity to work in the community on this territory. We are also mindful of broken covenants and the need to strive to make right with all our relations. For those of us joining on Zoom, we take a moment to say hello. We hear you clicking in. And let us know in the chat that you're there. You can tell us what part of Ontario you're from. You can tell us what part of the country you're from, and even your co-op. And let us know the traditional land that you're on. And if you're not sure, here's where you can go. The website is native hyphen, that's a dash, land.ca. That is NATIVE hyphen LAND.ca. And that will tell you the land that you're sitting on. And when you want to do your land acknowledgement, this will help you.
It is great that so many of us are with here in person tonight, but we're also pleased to see that we have over 100 people registered to attend online. Just a few housekeeping notes to our Zoom participants. First, we've muted you. We'll likely have a little time for questions at the end if you'd like to ask one. Please use the raise hand function in the reactions section at the bottom of your screen. We'll unmute you when it's your turn to speak. If you've called in on your phone, you can press *9 to request to be unmuted. Again, to request to be unmuted, that's *9. Just want to do a quick shout out to Doug Sider, the Executive Director of Golden Horseshoe CHF, for making all the technology work so we can participate collectively tonight. If you're having any trouble with Zoom at any time, please message him directly or message Amanda as well, who's also supporting right next to us in the chat, and we'll try to help you out.
Now, if you think this is the most important election for housing ever, put your hand up. Yes, yes. Okay, did we get any reaction on Zoom? Are they putting up their hands on Zoom? What do they think? Raise your hands on Zoom. Let's see that reaction. Oh yeah, I'm seeing some hands going up. Fantastic. So we all agree that we're here tonight and we want to hear from sector leaders about the April 28th federal elections. Now, I'd like to ask our panelists. They are right here seated at the front. And let's find out who we've got here tonight. Starting from my far end, I really believe he needs no introduction. However, there may be a few new people in the sector who may not know who this great man is. And that is Tom Clement. This is Canada's 45th federal election and Tom's 10th as the executive director of CHFT. We know he'll have something very significant and important to say to us about it.
And next to Tom is Diana Yoon. Diana is the program manager, policy and government relations at CHF Canada. She's been working hard on ways to get people talking about co-op housing during this election campaign. Shout out to Diana.
And moving down the line, we've got Elena Hart. Elena is the executive director of the Central Ontario Cooperative Housing Federation, a former co-op manager and a frequent meeting chair for CHFT members. She'll bring a perspective from outside of the GTA.
And rounding out our panel is Tim Ross. Tim's worked in CHF Canada's Ottawa office now for 9 years, 7 of those as its executive director. He's got some great ideas tonight about how we can keep housing in the middle of the political agenda. Many from the CHFT team are here as well. We've got Celia Chandler, Deputy Executive Director of CHFT, and Nicole and I are going to ask our panelists questions, and each has been asked to keep their responses to 5 minutes. Celia is going to be helping out and being our timekeeper this evening, so we all stay on track. Okay, are we all set?
All right. So is everybody hearing okay out in the front here? We're good? Everybody hearing okay online? Okay. So I'm going to kick off the questions. And the first one is for Tim. Tim, the co-op housing sector is growing with real momentum to build more cooperative homes across the country. Can you tell us about how the dedicated federal investment has made a difference for co-op development projects and what you hope to see from a future federal government?
Thanks for kicking things off, Nicole and Linda, and good evening, everyone. Good evening to everyone here and online. It's a pleasure to be here. To start answering that question, let's unpack a little bit of the political context. And that is a context characterized by some very troubling geopolitics. Many people are having a very challenging time in Canada due to a cost of living and housing crisis. Certainly a scarcity and precarity mindset has taken root here. And then we have an orange menace south of the border who is causing even greater turmoil globally. And so that has certainly shifted the focus of the election to be most concerned about the tariff conflict with the states. But underlying that, there's a lot of hurting out there in the housing world. So enter the value of co-op housing, and we all know that value very broadly, but more Canadians and more neighbors need to hear about co-op housing. We know that housing is affordable, secure, building strong communities. We know that when housing cooperatives have good governance and ethical leadership, there's nothing stronger. There's nothing stronger in our communities than co-op housing. So in this federal election, it's very important that we get our voice out. And the theme of our campaign during the federal election is to build co-op housing, build a better future. And we're calling on all parties and all candidates and all of our neighbors who don't know about co-op housing to help us build co-op housing, to protect co-op housing, to acquire co-op housing, as well as support and pursue more equal housing outcomes for urban, rural, and northern Indigenous communities. 73% of Canadians, when polled, agree that we need to build more co-op housing, and an overwhelming majority of Canadians agree that governments need to step up their level of support. At this time of division and this feeling of division, it's really refreshing to see this level of support for cooperative housing. And let's also remind ourselves that today's housing crisis, it's not an accident. The system is working as it is designed. So the housing crisis is a result of policy, and it's going to take good public policy to support solutions. That's why elections matter, and that's why everyone in this room matters. Your voice matters. Proof point. A couple proof points. Well, over successive federal elections, the co-op housing sector, when speaking with a strong voice, has attracted additional public support and public financing. But make no mistake, who's the biggest funder of co-op housing in Canada? Who's the biggest funder of co-op housing in Canada? It's the members. It's the members that are the strongest and biggest supporter of co-op housing in Canada. And we are in a very good position to attract further investment. Thanks to your voice over the last few federal elections, we've been able to benefit from $2.6 billion worth of net new investments in co-op housing. This is after a time when preceding 2014, 2015, when it was the official policy of the federal government to pretty much end funding and all funding to community and co-op housing. And it was the voice of co-op housing members that made a difference over the last few elections to have the federal government re-engage and to enable co-ops to protect affordability for low-income members by securing rental assistance, to enable co-op renovation and renewal, and most significantly, commitment that is now in place and money is hitting the ground. The first time in 30 years, we're seeing a federal commitment to build new co-op housing across the country through the $1.5 billion co-op housing development program. So Canada needs more co-op housing, but that's not going to happen without the mobilization of members of co-ops. And look forward to hearing my colleague Diana share a little bit more how you can engage in this election. There's a lot at stake. We have developed a lot of momentum. We need to continue that momentum. And so now's the time to share our stories. Now's the time to build. Now's the time to build co-op housings to build a better future.
Thanks, Tim. And what an achievement to CHF Canada for getting co-op housing development off the ground again after 30 years. So yeah, I'd now like to turn to Tom, who can talk a bit about CHFT's Kennedy Green project. Tom, people have heard lots in the news and from CHFT about this development. Is it true we're really going to get 612 new units of co-op housing soon?
Absolutely.
Woohoo!
Woo!
You know, we wouldn't be here without you and the way that you maintain your co-ops. And when there was a lot of publicity around this new co-op in Scarborough, right at the subway station, and people started to say, well, co-op housing is back. And I said, we never went anywhere. You all know that, because you work in your co-ops every day, you're on the boards, you're on the committees, you're working, and whenever you get a chance, you talk about co-op housing. And more so than any other time in the next couple of weeks, let's be loud and clear. We need more co-op housing. Absolutely, we need more. And with you talking to your neighbors and speaking to any politician who comes to your door, whether you support that particular politician or not, keep them at your door. So the candidate you're supporting will be knocking on more doors. So let's talk about the Kennedy project. Well, it is 612 units. And how did we get that? There was a public proposal call, and we, even though we were making a comeback, and we decided that we would put in a proposal with a development partner, Civic. And we actually won the proposal call. So Create.to in Toronto gets sites together, prepares them, and puts them out to tender. And this project was a very big project. We looked at it and we thought we could do it. And to some extent, we were surprised. But we knew that we had good partners, and we went out there and found more. And then we added another development partner, Windmill. Oh, good, thank you. We worked with them, and now we've been working on this project. This will just show you how long development really takes, for 3 years already. And what does the city bring to the table? Create.to brought the site. The city of Toronto is giving us, they're not charging us property taxes for 99 years. So that makes the project more viable. You'll always hear developers complain about development charges. And to make this project more viable, we're getting all the development charges waived. So that's going to be a big saving. That makes us affordable. And we're getting the full cooperation of the city. If probably some of you are involved in your co-op in the beginning and you heard about how long everything takes, and somebody came to you and said, oh, your site has to be rezoned. And it takes years to rezone. The city of Toronto rezoned our site in 70 days. Yeah, the city of Toronto is behind us and they're doing a lot of the heavy lifting. And now we're doing work with CMHC, and it's really important that CMHC has come back into the co-op housing business. But even with all those things that we're getting from the city and all that help we're getting from the city, it would not be possible if you hadn't done the work in promoting co-op housing and working with CHF to create the first co-op housing program in 30 years. That's what we did together. And that program is making it possible for CHFT to build 612 units. So that's very important. The partnerships that we have with the developers, the city, CMHC, it takes all these things. The new project is going to be close to the subway, close to the GO trains. It's going to have many, many things. And it's a beautiful looking project. I was sitting at home one Friday night, and this email comes and it says, you're a winner. I thought, oh, that's got to be spam for sure. And for reasons I can't totally explain, I still opened the email. So I'm pretty gullible, but I read, your project has won an international design award. We've already won it. And why shouldn't low to moderate income people live in nice housing? This is a great example. It'll be a beacon for people going by it. Everybody will notice it. And we're back in the housing game, and we're doing other projects as well. I'll talk about them later. But again, without you, without CHF Canada, the diligent work that people like Diana and Tim and all the people at CHF Canada did to make this program happen. And now we got to get through this election and make sure that we maintain, and furthermore, that we grow the co-op housing program and that we get the things, the rent supplements down the road that our members need when they expire in a couple of years. We need to be louder than ever. We need to be focused, and we have a great national organization, you have a great local organization, and we together will build more co-op housing.
Woo! We together will build more co-op housing. I love that. Nobody writes it better than you. So I'm so excited. I think we just need another round of applause. I'm looking at the building and I'm like, that's like supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. Like, come on now. This is what we did. Imagine when we become more stronger together, what else we can do. So dream big, the sky's the limit. So now, Diana, you're the government relations expert on the panel. Tell us about the federal election campaign that CHF Canada is running. What can we do as individual co-op members to get candidates in our ridings to get excited about co-ops and get behind us and support us?
Awesome. Thanks, Nicole. So who here has a sign?
I have a sign.
Do you have a sign?
have
You
a
can
sign.
take one home with you. So we'll start there. So you can see here, we've titled this campaign, Build Co-op Housing, Build a Better Future. It's really on the nose, maybe a little explicitly on the nose, but it makes it so easy that this is what the campaign is about. Ultimately, we want you to be able to speak up for co-op housing, and that's really what this campaign is about. We surveyed members, what resources would help you get the message out about the campaign. Anytime housing is mentioned in this election campaign, to your candidates, at to different volunteers of political parties, at community events, Easy campaign. Build co-op housing, build a better future. And the resources that we've created, so you can scan this QR code here to go to the website. Oh yes, thank you, Harvey, for doing that on your phone. Maybe you're just taking a picture. But that will get you to some of the resources. So one of the resources we made is an email template so you can easily send an email to your local candidates. That means, and I think someone mentioned it, but some of the ridings have changed. I was talking to some folks, like, even if you've had an incumbent for a very long time, it's moved over a street or two. So just check, who are your local candidates? Maybe you're like, I always vote for the same person the last 20 years. For circumstances outside of our control, that might have changed. So I would say check out your local candidate, but then also we have this letter to candidates tool that sends them all the information about the campaign. Next, we want you to be able to think, okay, what else might happen? So a candidate or volunteer comes to the door. We made a what is co-op housing fact sheet. So you can tell them this is what co-op housing is, this is how it's different. Just, it's a nice little resource, but also really, really importantly, it's important that you're able to share your story of, why are you a co-op member? Why do you think we need to build more co-op housing for you, your friends, your family, your neighbors, for future generations? I think that's really kind of getting to the core of what understanding, the kind of what's really powerful in this campaign is hearing from the members. And this is because, co-op members are more than just voters. They're examples, your examples of real life examples of how housing system can be different. People are craving a sense of security. They want solutions to address the lack of affordable housing, to address homelessness. Co-op housing can do those things. And the more you're able to think, okay, if I have 30 seconds, what do I tell someone at the door? What do I tell, you can call a campaign office after you send off this email. The best way to make sure that they got your email is to call them and ask, hey, did you see my email? I'm a constituent. And I think really we have to understand that this isn't just about these individual actions. We have signs you can take back. The real power in the signs is if there's a lot of them around your co-op. I think, we have collective power, and that's really, how we can come together and be able to advocate for the priorities of the campaign. Tom's talked a little bit about it. Tim has too. We want to build more co-op housing, and that requires dedicated federal investment that will help. Some people have started to think, okay, there's a new co-op housing development program. How can we ensure that there is stable funding so that these development projects can continue? We need to be part of the movement to protect renters. And one way to do that is to be able to buy buildings off the rental market and be able to turn them into co-ops. I know some tenants in Hamilton did that last year, and now they're co-op housing members. So really, really awesome to see that it's happening. There's a MURA program in Toronto. And Tim mentioned also, we want to support Indigenous-led housing, and that is a key flank of the campaign as well, to support housing solutions for the urban, rural, northern Indigenous housing strategy and how that can create more Indigenous co-ops and nonprofits. And lastly, with rental assistance, this is a campaign that we've had, in the past a number of years, but we know that co-ops are strong because they're mixed income communities, and we want to ensure that new co-ops and existing co-ops can keep supporting low-income households and individuals to live in these co-ops. So really, that's the kind of pillars of the campaign, and we have all these resources so that you can engage with the campaign, but a campaign is only as powerful as the people who are behind the campaign. Thank you.
It's great, Diana. And for folks online, we'll see if we can get some of those links in the chat as well, to make it a little bit easier for you. Now a question to you, Elena. You're representing parts of Ontario outside of CHFT's area. We often think of affordability as a problem in the biggest cities. Maybe you can help us understand what co-ops in your area are experiencing.
Right. Thank you for that. Can everybody hear me okay? This is very strange. I'm very not tall, so I'm like looking at the microphone. So affordability is an issue everywhere at this point. There is no longer areas of, at least Ontario and the country, where affordability is not an issue. People are experiencing challenges when it comes to their income, which we all know, and income and what they're paying for housing throughout. COCHEF is a very small federation. I'm just going to kind of ground you in where we're coming from. So it's a very small federation, just one staff. And so we have 43 members throughout Kitchener, Cambridge, Waterloo, Brantford, and Guelph. And how we have been approaching this to support our cooperatives and in building more, acquiring more, is by supporting them through partnerships with municipal and regional government. So we have been acting and delegating to ensure that we are front of mind when it comes to how we are collectively going to start to solve this crisis. And so when we speak with everyone, because that's what we do, we make sure that they understand who we are and what we represent and the communities that are built and strengthened by being cooperative and by housing cooperative members. So one of the things that we did, oh, that's the picture, right? So I see I'm not looking behind me. So the person who's talking, and that's not me, the person, that's Mayor McCabe. So the city of Waterloo put out a call for a grant in order to support research and development of new affordable housing, and COCHEF was awarded a $50,000 grant in order to explore the development readiness and the potential for infill of 6 of the co-ops that are within the city limits. So we have taken that initiative and worked with a consultant and trying, now we don't have the report yet, but we do know that out of the 6, 3 of them have expressed interest at this point because of this initiative, and there will be infill projects that would not have otherwise been seen or explored. So this is one of the ways that we're looking at continuing to create better and more supply and continuing to strengthen, you know, our co-op members, our COCHEF members, and members at large. That's what we're doing. That's okay?
Exciting times, exciting times. I'm so excited here. I'm salivating. Like when we talk about Caroline Co-op, I encourage you, go online, check out the video of what these now members that were former tenants did. The movement is working. It's a national issue. And when we do it right and see how important it is and get everybody else to buy in, it's amazing what can happen. So Diana, I'm coming to you next. You ready?
Yeah.
Can you give us a flavor for what's at stake for young people and housing in this election?
I mean, honestly, what's not at stake, right? It's the ability for young people to live, to grow roots, and to have a future. I think that it's funny because anytime an election comes around, people are like, oh, do young people care? And like, are they going to vote? It's true. I think there is historically, you know, it has been true that 18 to 24-year-olds and even up to, 30-year-olds do vote less than older adults. But I think that there have been instances in previous elections, like the 2015 election, where young people were mobilized, and that did make a difference. And I think this really speaks to, the part of the problem is that young people are struggling just to get by. If you're just trying to make ends meet and pay rent, how much time do you have to really think about what are the ways that these governments who may or may not do very much for us are going to make a difference in my life? And so, it's funny because like I ran federally in 2019, I was 24, and that was, the housing crisis hasn't gotten better. But like, I think even in 2019, it was very obvious when you go knock on doors, young people say like, I don't think I can buy a house, and I live with like my family still, and I live with, more roommates than I thought I would. And there are all of these things, and that hasn't changed. Rents are skyrocketing, no fault evictions are up. People do make life choices based on the housing crisis and the housing challenges that they're experiencing. And I think Tim said, like, in many ways, this is a housing system that is working exactly the way it's supposed to. And that is unfair and not right for young people. How do we create a housing system that does feel like one we want to live in. And so I think that's really why I think co-op housing is such a great model. It, provides a sense of security, a sense of security of tenure. It kind of, I think people are looking for that. People crave that. People want affordable housing solutions, and co-ops get more affordable over time. That's like unheard of. I tell people, I went to a co-op in Scarborough. It's a 3-bedroom townhouse. They rent it for $1,100 a month. And people are so confused, but these are co-ops where like genuinely so confused. And then I say, and even better, like, these are homes where people have raised their families, and I think it's like that kind of intergenerational living that people are just, I think they can't even imagine. So that's, I think, the kind of society and the kind of housing we want to see. And I know that Tom, one of the things he's really proud of is the diversity scholarship at CHFT. There are young people in this housing movement. So I think that's really also why we want to be able to tap into being able to grow leaders in this space and also make sure that they keep living in co-op housing. So we build more of them and we create more co-op housing for future generations.
Thanks, Diana. I can so relate to your comments. And as someone who is still kind of young, I just had the opportunity to vote upstairs on the second floor. They're open until 9 p.m. tonight. And so if you have a chance, you don't have to be in this writing. You just have to have a piece of ID. If you just go upstairs and you can vote. Now, another question to Tim. Beyond development, CHF Canada's advocacy has also included pushing for urban, rural, Northern Indigenous housing strategy and ongoing rental assistance. How do we get the federal government to move on these equally important pieces for co-op housing?
Thanks. And there's a lot to this question, and I will get to that in just a couple of seconds, but I just wanted to maybe build on some of the conversation here in how we're effective in getting our voices out. We commissioned a massive poll a couple months ago. As far as sample sizes go in Canada, like it's a poll of 6,000 respondents, demographically, regionally representative, weighted according to Canadian population. So like this is really interesting. These are really interesting data. And I mentioned earlier that there's a very high level of support for cooperative housing just on face value as one of the best solutions to addressing the housing crisis. And so we're really curious about that data. So then we had some focus groups. We had focus groups across several regions, again, weighted for to be representative of the Canadian population. And we said, well, why do you support co-op housing so much? And what was really interesting is people just accepted it mostly on face value. They didn't actually know a lot about co-op housing. But when we started to share some key information about co-op housing, the very high level of support enjoyed around co-op housing, it actually went up to almost 100%. So that's why the storytelling is so important. That's why the outreach to candidates and to neighbors who don't know about co-op housing, friends that don't know about co-op housing, is so important because people, 86% of Canadians recognize housing as a human right. I don't know what the other percentage are thinking there that don't support this. That's a bit weird, but people want these good outcomes for community, and that's why this storytelling is so important. Furthermore, we as a movement, we might have fallen into some kind of myth making that we didn't have a lot of development capacity as a sector. Well, you saw the award-winning work that CHFT is doing as a demonstration of the significant latent amount of development capacity in the sector. The Co-op Housing Development Program, it launched in June 2024, took applications in September, and it was oversubscribed. In fact, it was significantly oversubscribed, and we know that there's almost $2 billion in qualified projects waiting for the next round of applications to open. So that's amazing. That's the level of community support we have for co-op housing development, and we need to keep it going. But back to the question. Co-ops are certainly more than bricks and mortar. Everybody here knows this, right? Co-ops are so much more. It's about people and it's about community. And today, in today's difficult world, in order to be strong, communities need to be inclusive, and we need to walk the path of truth and reconciliation in Canada. Rental assistance, the first part of the question. So you might know this as subsidies, you might know this as rent supplements, you might know this as the Federal Community Housing Initiative. And co-ops have done a great service to communities and the public by creating space in co-ops to deliver rental assistance, to deliver subsidies, to ensure the inclusivity of co-op housing, and have done so for decades, So this is not yet a given, unfortunately. It should be a given, and it should be a permanent public policy. It should be a permanent program of the federal government. And yet, when operating agreements were expiring and we were back, if we were to hit the rewind button back to 2014, it was the official policy of the federal government that there will be no further investment in co-op housing. No further investment in co-op housing. No further investment in community housing, which would have resulted in the economic eviction of thousands of people who are members of our communities. And that is absolutely unacceptable. And what did our movement do? Our members spoke up. We spoke up together with a strong and united voice, and we got rental assistance renewed for 12 years. For 12 years. We did that together. But wait, that program will end in 2028. And there is a notional commitment in place to extend it for just another couple of years, another 5 years. But that's not enough. We want to see permanent rental assistance as a program of the federal government to keep co-ops and community housing inclusive and responsive to community need. And when our members speak up with one voice, with that message, we get results. So let's get some results in this election and let's be heard. I know I'm going on. Thank you. Applause break. Okay, sorry. I got to stick to my my
You
script.
gotta stick to your script.
Nicole coaches me sometimes on my public.
Because I don't stick to the script. What the heck? You know why we don't stick to the script? Is because we're so passionate and we believe in co-op housing. And this initiative to really foster making sure that we come together with the Indigenous community to build co-op housing in their communities is so important. But we can't do it without all of you coming on board and understanding the issues that Tim has raised and the risks that we face, because we can't take it for granted, right? Because go ahead, Tim.
So this is the other part of the question about, well, why are we putting in a specific campaign message about urban, rural, and northern Indigenous housing in our campaign? Well, because we have very far to go as a country in truth and reconciliation. The reality is, you know, if we stand for truth and reconciliation, we need to campaign for it. There's no reconciliation without secure, affordable, and culturally appropriate housing for Indigenous communities. And Indigenous communities face disproportionately unequal housing outcomes in Canada. Indigenous households are 40% more likely to experience housing need, and once in housing need, are 45 times more likely to stay in housing need. Indigenous housing leader Margaret Foe uses the 3 C's, that the lack of housing and supports for Indigenous communities is reflected in the higher number of kids in care, adults in corrections, and people prematurely dying and being in coffins because of the lack of housing equality for Indigenous households in Canada, and a massively disproportionate representation in homelessness. So this is the reason why we need to lean into our concern for community as cooperators to support the creation of Indigenous-led cooperatives and to make sure that an unfulfilled promise in the national housing policy gets delivered. There's $4 billion sitting in the Treasury that's committed to addressing Indigenous housing for urban, rural, and northern communities. And it's not been delivered yet. It's sitting in the Treasury. It's passed in the budget, and it hasn't been delivered to communities. So that's why that's such an important part of our platform. And that's why we as cooperators are speaking up for equal housing outcomes for Indigenous households.
And that is a question you can ask the candidate in your area. Why is it still sitting there? And if you want us to vote for you, you need to do something about it. So, Tim, thank you for your passion and what you're doing in the co-op housing sector. And we're hearing a pretty strong message on affordability and why it's such an important issue for us all, not just in Toronto, but across the board, for our young people, for our vulnerable people, for all of us. Because when we build communities, we build a better future for all of us. And I think, Tim, with what you just said, you reminded us, and even earlier, with one stroke of a pen, it can all be eradicated. So don't take this election for granted. So now, we're going over to now Elena. You've got some new housing in the works at Cochef. What can you tell us about that?
How much time do I have? Just kidding.
I think 5 minutes.
Or 4. So my federation was not really focused on development and acquisition until probably about 3 years ago. So it's a relatively recent development in what we do and where we're putting our resources. But we are building a 35 unit in collaboration with the County of Brant. So they have funding the actual soft costs for this new build. It's a seniors build in St. George in the County of Brant. So that'll be 35 net new that we're working on right now. We just received word that we've been conditionally approved for 30 Laura Street in the city of Cambridge by the region of Waterloo. So they put out a call and we answered it. And I got that. It was very weird, but we had a meeting with them where they just announced it to us. Oh, by the way, we would like to have a meeting with you. I'm like, okay. Oh, here you go. I'm like, what? But, you know, that's a lot of work that went into everybody doing what we are doing here. You know, the commitment of all the people who are involved to be able to do that. So that will be 105 units. So that with a daycare on site. So that's our second project. And had you asked me 5 years ago, I would tell you I knew nothing about development. I've learned a lot since then. And the last one that we're working on now, we work at part of a group of interested, so all these stakeholders, it's called Build Now. So they're a group of developers and architects and Habitat for Humanity and COCHEF and other stakeholders who have come together. And we've been awarded 2025 University, which is a massive site. It's going to be 3 football fields big for anybody who plays football. It will be a completely built community. It's 1,010 units. It's medical and daycare and retail, bigger than I could possibly imagine. And on that site, there will be a new co-op of 75 or more units. So that's what we're looking at. Thank you.
Thanks, Lana. Those sound like some exciting ribbon cuttings coming up.
Yeah.
And now I know I can count on you, Tom, to leave us with some hopeful comments. Can you comment on what you see as the future for housing, for co-op housing?
Well, you're talking to an optimist. Absolutely. I see a great future for co-op housing because we're in a time where the various forces are coming together. The development industry is having a problem. That's an opportunity for us. Developers are phoning CHFT on a pretty regular basis, wanting to work with us. Matter of agreeing on the price at some point. But there is a real interest. And so we got developers, we got good politicians at City Hall. Hopefully after the election, we'll continue to have strong politicians in Ottawa. All these things have to come together. But what we need is you, strong members who support us. And everybody likes us during the election. And the question I always have for politicians is, I'm hard pressed to remember ever meeting a politician who didn't like co-op housing. So maybe I'm missing something, but if everybody likes us, why aren't we building more? So talk is cheap, housing's not. Housing is going to cost a lot of money to build, and we're going to have to get used to it, and the government's going to have to get used to making an investment in it. Because just like any other industry, we're creating jobs in building housing. We're creating homes. And the homes that we create mean that the people who live in our co-ops, they don't have to switch their kid around in schools, right? They're not facing that anymore. As they're getting older, they can age in place. All those things that we got people aging in place. We have young people. We have a great scholarship program. Thanks for the plug, Diana. And I usually have to make it 3 times myself. But we have a whole generation of people who are coming up and they want to move out of their parents' house. And guess what? Their parents want them to leave too. It's a good relationship in that sense. But we need the politicians to stop talking, and the way we succeed in building housing is a program. You go right back to the early 70s. What really spurred co-op housing? It was a national housing program. And we had programs that went along. And then the government pushed the pause button, for 30 years, major pause. But now we have a program. And once we have a program, and already CHF Canada is proving that there's huge demand. There's more groups that want to build co-op housing. We did a little project at Riverdale where we added some units. And I think we had people were off site for a while. They came back. But we also had about 12 units available to people. And we put something on our website, send in an interest form. 6,000 interest forms. Now that's what I call an interest. And, how can you build a 612 unit co-op? I got 6,000 people waiting to get in 12 units. There's a need. Wake up, people. We need more housing. We need housing for the kids that are living in co-ops. We need housing for people we haven't even met. But when we talk about co-op housing, they're always there. When we had the public meeting in Scarborough, people came out. Usually public meetings, people are complaining about the development. Not that time. They came to support us. And our friends from City Park were there and spoke up in the meeting. That was really important because the president of City Park stood up and she said, you're building 612 units. We've been managing 770 units for 35 years. We know large co-ops can succeed. We have to push on in the next 2 weeks in the election, but the real critical period will happen when the government gets established. There'll be a couple of weeks when they're swearing in the cabinet and all that stuff. We need to be very clear with every politician who got elected. We need co-op housing. You liked us in the election, like us now. Build us some co-op housing. We all have to stand together, and don't rest if you think a good government got elected, because they're going to face challenges and they're going to have to cut programs. But let's be very clear. We're not taking a cut in co-op housing. We want an increase. We want co-op housing for people who want to move in and be part of our movement. And make no mistake, we're not some form of government housing. We're a movement. And part of that movement is land trusts, acquiring land and creating a future. We can hold that land. We can build on that land. We can keep it permanently in the public domain. I was at an anniversary for a co-op, and the building was actually 100 years old, but they were part of the land trust. And I thought, wow, they're 100 years old. But these buildings had been flipped 3 times before they joined the land trust. And I said, you will never be flipped again. That's what we want. Permanent, affordable housing available for everybody, regardless of income. And we want a strong and united movement, and you're the key to it. And you can start the election campaign by going upstairs and voting if you want, or you can stick around. We got a few sandwiches for you. Take care.
Now we're almost winding down, but wasn't that amazing? Like when you hear the history, I wish every co-opper, every member that lived in a co-op was here tonight to get our history. I mean, you guys just rocked it, totally rocked it, like building communities. And when I look at this amazing young person, come, I'm Linda, diversity scholarship winner, now president of CHF Canada. We build leaders. We build leaders. The job that she does, I won't tell them where you work publicly, but the job that she does is actually really amazing. And so in co-ops, we don't just build homes, we don't just have safe and affordable housing, we build communities that foster and help people to thrive and live. And people go and say, oh, I don't like my co-op, and then they come back. People are coming back, begging us to come back to our homes. So remember this. Bring back the pride in your co-op. Share this message with the members of your co-op. Go to the MPs and tell them the difference between us and others, what it is for you. Stories matter. You matter. That's why we're here tonight. You know, I'm taking these messages and I want you to formulate your questions in your head because you're going to take a couple minutes for some questions because this is so important that you get, whether you're online or you're here in person, if you have a question, we have the experts here. I mean, like 712 units in Scarborough, like, come on, people. This is no small feat. And when they give us excuses like mixed income communities don't work, we call that out. We have to call out the misinformation that is out there about co-ops. We have to call out all the things that work for us and talk to your members because participation matters. Getting involved matters. And I think that's part of the essence of also why we're here tonight and where we've made a difference. We held a key and everybody wanted to hold a key. We got to bring back that key. So you hold a key campaign, look it up. You'll find many keys with people holding keys. So on the floor or on Zoom, do we have any questions? Let's go to Zoom first because, you know, you guys here are seeing us. You're in the action. You get to hold signs like this. Can they see our signs? Like we have signs like this, right? And all sorts of fancy signs. We have signs like houses. Anybody on Zoom with a question yet? If not, okay, what about the floor? Anybody on the floor with a question? Come on up to this mic right in the middle here.
Good evening. My name is Corrado Silvestri. I'm from City Park. I'm a baby.
Happy City Park. Yes.
I'm a baby on City Park. I moved in 1 year ago, and I strongly believe it's the best thing I've ever done. I find a community which is quite nice. I got involved in quite a few things because I have free times. But there is one question I have. Can we understand what co-op means? Co-op supposed to be a group of people that they live in the same space. They divide things together. But it's not only an affordable houses, it's also a place where we live. I mean, I think City Park is blessed because we have social worker and we have all we want. We are 2 blocks from any hospital in Toronto. But I'm here to ask help from your association to teach us, member of City Park, how to create this community stronger because it's a great community. And I don't know that anybody or some people don't know what co-op means. Co-op means, yes, I own a little piece of the block, but I have to do something to get this piece of the block to work out. So sometime I run out of ideas. We had a very good organization called Norax that works in our building, and they help us on that way. Recently, your organization came to us and gives us some help. But I don't know, I'm coming from the private sector. So If I perform, I get a raise. If I don't, I was fired. That's simple, right? But today I'm in a different way, and I ask for help to your, the association, to teach whoever belongs to a co-op how to make it more a family, more people that talk to each other. So
Thank you for that question. And
thank you.
Tom, did you want to take that one?
There are many opportunities in an organization like the Co-op Housing Federation. We can come, we can meet with your board, we can meet with committees, help you to engage people. And as you know, we're engaging people at City Park right now. One of the things is improving your common space. We're building a big new space for you. Grace back there, our land trust coordinator, sent me some photos the other day. That's going to make the community better. But I know you have a lot of ideas, and you may want to come and talk to me about some of those ideas. We talked the last time I was at City Park, and gathering people around food. City Park tends to have people who are a bit older, and so I know you're trying to address that. But we can come, we can work with you, and one size doesn't fit all. But City Park is a strong co-op. And we work with them through many different stages of their lives. As a matter of fact, I was the first person from the outside world to go to City Park. And, it was like I made the moon landing or something. But, I met the members early on, and I know that it's a strong community, and we'll work with you to continue to keep it strong.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Tom. So we have 2 questions online. Let's go to unmuting. And I think I have Greg first. Greg, go ahead and ask your question. We're going to unmute you.
Hi, thank you very much. First, I'd just like to say thank you. That it's amazing to listen to all of you. You're all very knowledgeable, all very passionate, and I truly appreciate it. I live in Dentonia Park Co-op, sort of in the east end of Toronto. And I was wondering if there's anywhere I could get a large sign, maybe for the side of the building or for the grounds, just to let some of the politicians know that we are a federal co-op, and that they should, if they'd like to come to talk to us, they would know that we're a co-op.
Diane?
Yeah,
Go
Tom
on.
said this is mine. Thanks, Greg. I think it's funny because when we started the campaign, we thought, would people want lawn signs? And we thought, it is hard enough to get people these window signs. So I think definitely we can mail Dentonia some of the paper window signs we have. But it is good feedback that there are co-op members who would want a lawn sign. And I think something I think about, like I live here in Toronto, and there's like Justice for Workers, or there's Palestine, like community signs that people have to show their support for different causes. So it's true that the co-op members could have a semi-permanent sign if some of them wanted to, especially because many of the co-ops are like townhouses or scattered units and not necessarily close to something that identifies them as a co-op. So yeah, it's a good feedback, Greg. Sorry we can't get you a sign in the next week, but it's definitely something we can look into, and we can probably send you the design file for sure.
We can
and
do that
look
as
into
part
how
2 of the
much-
campaign. When we talked about making sure that they follow through with what they say. So we need to create the messaging that they will follow through on what they say and create the second part of the campaign. So I have John on Zoom. Zoom is cracking up here right now. They're on fire. Go ahead, John. We're going to unmute you. There you go. Go ahead, John.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Yeah, echoing some of Greg's comments. Really great webinar. Really appreciate it being put on, and it's being recorded so I can get a link to send it around to other people in my community. I live at Bain Co-op in the east end of Toronto. And just as a comment, I am surprised, actually, quite frankly, of the engagement by the community about this federal election. My co-op, the majority of people who vote for the NDP, and they usually, those are the only signs we ever see. This election, there are conservative signs in my community. I'm appalled about that, but it just shows you an indication of the political engagement around this specific campaign. We are going to have an all candidates meeting in our in this co-op in the next week or two. So I would really, really like to get my hands on those signs. Would really appreciate that. And I must again apologize. I came late to the webinar, so I may have missed resources that were publicized earlier. But are there, hard copy handouts, outlining the key points we want to present to candidates in terms of more affordable housing, more co-ops?
So thank you, John. There will be a list that we will send out. It's in the package. I think we mentioned it at the beginning of the meeting of co-op points.
Yeah.
And
Good.
Diana will probably be in contact with you
Yeah.
about regarding points to make at the meeting. So we definitely have your name down. So John, if you can just drop in the chat for our team, your contact information, and we get something out to you. And thank you so much for your question and for doing an all candidates meeting. We need some more of those. I have one more question in the chat here. And team, let me know if we can answer this one. It's a big one. Will the future of co-op have mortgages and that they will eventually own? And of all federal co-ops, will they download the responsibility to provinces? Kind of like what they did with the. Who wants to go with that one, Tom or Tim?
Okay, well, thanks for the super complex policy question. Who's that from? Shay, thank you. Yes, so will co-ops have mortgages? Living and being part of a co-op community, it's a little bit different than owning your own house, right? When you own your own house, you might be paying a mortgage for quite a while, and then your mortgage comes to an end, and then you die. Actually, that's the etymology of mortgage is mortgage is to pay until you die. No, but no, in reality, co-ops co-ops are old. They're starting to show their age in Canada, and cooperators have the means of renewing their buildings using financing like mortgages, and we also have an obligation to pay it forward, right? To keep our homes in a good state of repair, not only for today but for the next generation. And what other co-ops are starting to do as well is they're finding ways not only to do renewal of their co-ops using longer term financing and renewing and getting new financing, but they're also finding ways to pay it forward to expand co-op housing, like Kingston Co-op, just a little way down the road from here, had contributed some of their own mortgage financing to develop as well. In terms of the devolution of housing policy, of housing administration in Canada, we can generally say, and we can say fairly objectively, that that's led to some poorer portfolio management outcomes and reduced overall funding for cooperatives and community housing. So what we do know today is that we need all orders of government involved in community and cooperative housing. So the question for us isn't so much about devolution to different orders of government, it's making sure that governments take even more responsibility in ensuring that everybody has a safe and affordable place to call home. And that's a part of our job, is in promoting cooperative housing and the engagement of all orders of government in supporting the sustainability and the growth of co-op housing. You heard that from Tom, that all orders of government need to be involved to make the Kennedy Green cooperative development a reality. And that's going to continue to be the case in order to be able to deliver affordable and deeply affordable co-op homes.
Thanks, Tim. And I would say if you have, any deeper questions, don't be shy to connect with your local federation, and they will help you with some of these questions and navigating the hemisphere of co-op housing. And I have a question on the floor.
Hi there, my name's Nicky Ward. A couple of comments that may be helpful to those online as well. One of the things that you started out with, I think it's very helpful, is some digital support. I noticed on the CHF Canada website, there are a list of talking points that people can tap into quickly. I also note that you've got a place where people can download the graphics, so the folks that want to make their own posters can do that. And most, I think, well, they're all good things, but there's a thing in here that allows members to send a letter to their candidates. There's a saying that all politics is local, right? And being able to go to one place, and I presumably it distributes to all the candidates in the area, which would be not just your favorite, but also the people that are trying to push the other guy off. Competition is good. And so this is one place where you can send a letter. It goes to all of the candidates. And if the main candidate isn't going to do anything, there's going to be 4 or 5 others that want to make that person, hold that person's toes to the fire. So that's a really good tool for people to tap into locally. I also wanted to say thank you for the shout out about the development of the units. And one of the things that we, and I think there were a few other people there that could spoke to the issue of the new development. And something that you can maybe consider sharing with local politicians is that co-op members are good neighbors. And there's a little bit of self-interest at work here. What we were able to talk to the people, there's a thing called NIMBYism, not in my backyard. And most politicians are terrified of that, because as soon as you say affordable housing, they say, this is conflict, this is controversy, they want nothing to do with it. If you really want to turn a politician off, tell them that's a very brave decision, right? So anything you can do to remove the risk. We are good neighbors, and the housing that we provide does not lower property values, which is the big concern of NIMBYs. In every area that I can think of, certainly here in Toronto, co-ops are in the heart of some of the highest property values around. City Park is, of course, where I'm from, but Diane Franklin. We're good neighbors, and we raise the quality of life wherever we are. And we are a safe proposition when it comes to affordable housing, which is something that whoever should be aware of. That's just my observation. Thank you. Thank you.
I so appreciate you. Yes. And this is what a co-op ambassador sounds like and looks like when you understand who we are. Co-op members are good neighbors. I think we need a sign for that. We are good neighbors. We do not lower the property value. And when we think, when we think of renting versus ownership, right now we have politicians thinking about, okay, let's buy. But what about people who could only rent? So let's talk about that. One last question, and it goes to this young man at the back here who's running to the mic diligently.
Hi, folks. My name is Natty. I am the co-executive director of a nonprofit. It's called House. We help students raise money to build affordable nonprofit and cooperative housing. And so thank you all. I'm actually building very much on the work of Diana, who is a member of our committee at York University. And students want to support the work that we do. They do at York University and at the University of Toronto, Mississauga campus to the tune of $2 million a year. And when we speak to the different student housing cooperatives, we spoke with folks at Neil Wyzik, at the Kingston Student Housing Cooperative, at WCRI. Every single one of those co-ops, they're ready for growth. When we tell them we want to start a housing project, they're all saying, hey, we'll help you with the management. But when we ask them, what do you need to grow yourselves? They all have different challenges and they face different challenges. And so I kind of have like a 2/3 part question. It's just the nature of how I ask questions. But my first question is, how do we better engage students more broadly around what's happening currently with the election? Beyond the election, how do we continue to engage students in questions around policy that better supports the development of nonprofit, affordable student housing co-ops? And I think I'll leave it there for now. So thank you so much.
Well, first I'm going to go to the young person right behind my back and ask, why as a young person, you stayed in this co-op housing sector, and what makes you go on? What is the message you have to young people like yourself?
I honestly, I think it's the education of the importance of cooperative housing. I think having conversations, understanding where I grew up, the importance of where I grew up, the fact that I was able to obtain a diversity scholarship to, further my education through Riverdale Co-op. It's just, being aware of who my manager was, having conversations with them. And so I think honestly, just communication and education is so important. And I know the first gentleman that asked the question had that question around how do I educate members around what a cooperative actually is. I think that's a really important, piece of just, communication.
This is why I love Namulinda. And your voice matters. I think it's very important to let them know their voice matters. And I have answers coming to my left. And I would say to you, St. Mary's University is a great place for you to get history of co-ops, for young people to actually go get educated and go get certification on and educate them on the beginning of co-ops came from student, as well. So that's important for them to know. Elena, you had a point you wanted to make on this one.
Absolutely. So two of co-chief members are WCRI and Guelph Campus Co-op. WCRI recently did a sale and acquisition, which brought them net, I think, 900 beds, which was pretty spectacular. And Guelph Campus Co-op is now beginning that type of undertaking, for which both we are supportive of them 100%. So we do what we can to bring their cause forward, because they're considered different sometimes in the eyes of some of the programs. So we're doing what we can to support them in their development and their continued development. So it's a very good question. We're coaches are also very, very aware of where students are and how powerful a group you actually are. So we totally are appreciative of all the things that you do.
That was so good. And I want to remind you, this is the International Year of Cooperatives. There's lots of information. And if you were to share with individuals the power of co-ops, the power of the movement, and how housing plays into that, there is a future here. And we have our partners, like I see Susan from Alterna Credit Union here, for example. Like, we have partners in here because we are co-ops. That sixth principle, cooperation among cooperatives. It's so important. So really get them to know that co-ops are not, because if you don't come out of your housing co-op where you live, you just think it's this little building. But Tom said it, it's a movement. We're not building, we are a movement. So I have one last question. I see love hearts coming from John. John has his hand up in the air. Okay, so John, you have my grandfather's name, so like you're pulling at my heartstrings here. So you get the last question.
Okay, perfect. Following up the question on how to involve youth, one suggestion would be for co-op members to encourage youth to become CHF delegates and attend the annual general meetings that are spread across the country. Fabulous way of have a trip and to meet people from across the country. Wonderful experience. Thank you.
John, that was a perfect answer. Great answer. And this year,
And I'm just gonna make a
for
plug.
those of you who live close to us right here in Toronto, the AGM is in Toronto in June this year.
Yes,
So
it
be
is.
sure to come out, and also, speak to your board and make sure, no matter what part of the country that you're in, you should be able to have a delegate from each co-op, because, delegates are the ones who make the resolutions, who help vote for or against the resolution. But more importantly, they vote for the governance, the board, the members of the board. You have the power, just at your federations like CHFT, how Namulinda is the president. It takes a member to vote, but you need to be a delegate. And so I'm going to release this wonderful mic, because I can be like Tom. I can be in here all night, because co-ops, I've been living in my co-op for 30 years, so I'm just out.
Nicole, I'm just going to do a quick plug. We also have a young members network, and there is a reception at the annual general meeting as well. There's a virtual, like a WhatsApp group. And I think, Nathy, to your point, like, there is so much more we can do to engage youth and students. And it is, I think we all want that. We want to see more student housing co-ops built. I lived in one. It was great. Young members are discounted too, says Tim.
One last point about just being a young member. I think also encouraging young members to join their board. It's so much more than, just affordable housing. It's sort of teaches you business 101. You understand governance, you understand the important decisions that are being made in your home, but that applies to, your career. You're at some point maybe going to engage with directors. And so, just understanding the governance system as well is really important for young people. So I would encourage folks to join the board. And find a mentor. Great point. Yes. Before we close out the night, there is a raffle this evening. And so we're going to do a raffle online as well as a raffle in person. And so I think we'll start with in person.